Welcome back. David Hertel in for Elias. My next guest column in the Gazette yesterday is titled, Executives at Big Charities Are Paid Well, So What? This really flies in the face of the conversation we had this morning with Jimmy Zubris and Paul Gott on the Big Five, who were both appalled, I say. The big salaries have been revealed that are being paid to the CEOs of Montreal's largest charities, between $200,000 and $250,000 a year for the CEOs of 17 big charities. Martine Saint-Victor is a communication strategist, general manager at Edelman. She writes for the Gazette. She writes for La Presse. And also, she's the one that gives me the business when she doesn't like something I'm saying when we're on the year-end panels with Mitsumi Takahashi. And so she joins me this morning. Hi, Martine.
Hello, how are you? Happy New Year. You deserve it, David, when I give it to you.
Of course I deserve it. Yes, I always deserve what I get from you. Yes, dear. So, Martine, tell me, this is a big debate. A lot of callers, a lot of our contributors are saying, hey, big charity CEOs shouldn't be getting these big salaries. You disagree?
I disagree, but I do understand the outrage because there is an image problem for certain for charities and foundation as a whole. And today is January 12th, David. It's the anniversary of the earthquake in Haiti.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And you will remember that in the wake of the earthquake, there were a lot of international NGOs that mismanaged funds. They were international NGOs, not Haitian NGOs. And so the image of foundations took a hit. That's one of the events that gave a black eye to this type of work.
Yeah.
And so I understand the outrage because on one hand, we have the vision of these mismanaged organizations. But on the other hand, I think what we have to remember is that people who work in charities and foundations are not missionaries. They need to get paid. And it's a tough business because you have to remember, you're not selling goods, you're not selling services, but you're still selling something. You have to make money. So there is a management factor to it. And these foundations, charities need to be competitive. They need to be able to retain talent. More and more what we see is that they're kind of extended legs of certain government agencies in the sense that they're doing work, underground work that perhaps the government can do. So which is why some of them do get partly government funding. So, when I sit on boards of various foundations and I see the work, I see it, and very often it's, like I said, it's difficult, but also what listeners need to know, for those who don't, is that when these organizations are audited, David, it's a very tight audit. I mean, it's very comparable to the type of audit that non-public companies, for example, or other corporations go through. So there is I can't vouch for every foundation and charities, but I'm very confident in saying that the majority are well managed and have to deal with very difficult situations. It's very complex. We're living right now where there's economic anxiety. Everybody's feeling the pinch. Everybody who goes to do their groceries sees that it's more difficult to end months. So for charities and foundations, this is a very difficult moment. But their causes still need the funding. They still have engagements and responsibilities. And now it's difficult because you need to retain these donors. You have to get new donors. It's not simple. So they have to get paid.
But Martine, you're one of the top perception thinkers in the country, and you realize that right now, for all the reasons you laid out, people have a perception problem with these big charities because they give money. A lot of people generously give money. Sometimes it's little donations, the little they have, or sometimes they make big donations, regardless of the size. And there are volunteers, there are employees that make relatively small salaries, if at all. And you see the quote unquote administrative costs. And
Yeah.
there's a perception that when you're giving, forget the number, $100, well then if
Hmm.
$50 of it goes to pay a six-figure salary for a CEO, there's a perception problem there. And so my
Oh,
question to you
absolutely.
is, how does the big charity circuit manage that perception issue?
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring it up because Canadians are very generous.
Yeah.
In Quebec, particularly, I mentioned the earthquake in Haiti at the beginning of our conversation,
Mm-hmm.
David, and to me, it is, I wasn't surprised by how generous Quebecers were, but it was such a beautiful reminder
Mm.
of the how big Quebecers' hearts are.
Mm.
I think this debate that's been happening for a few days is a wonderful opportunity for big charities and big foundations to explain to us the breakdown and say,
Mm.
you know, we've been hearing the conversation and we want to be part of it. Let us explain to you how, we run these charities that you're
Mm-hmm.
contributing to. It's an opportunity to educate us.
I think it
And I
is. Yeah.
and I think also this exercise, it is possible, David, that some of these organizations could cut some of the overhead. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
In my column, I've said this. I've said I'm not outraged if everybody at these organizations are well paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned volunteers. Volunteers are a driving force in these organizations, right? But
Mm-hmm.
there are also people who are not volunteers, they're on the payroll. They need to be paid accordingly as well. And the reason why I opened the column with the baseball analogy,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a whataboutism because somebody tweeted at me and said it's a whataboutism. It really
Mm-hmm.
isn't. It's to put things in context because often when we hear about pay disparity, particularly, for example, if we take the teachers,
Mm.
you'll often hear, well, hockey players are paid millions.
Right.
Why can't we, right? So it was to put it in perspective.
Mm.
I find deplorable that teachers and nurses are not better paid. But I don't think it has to be one or the other. So yes, CEOs of charities and foundations, that's one thing. But there is enough money to pay our teachers well and our nurses
Mm.
well. I'm really about pay equity, pay equity for all.
Mm.
Right, here in Canada, there's no excuse to be underpaid. Absolutely no excuse to be underpaid.
Correct.
But I do think we need to understand better how foundations and charities work. Here's a beautiful opportunity
Yeah.
for them to kind of hold our hand, show some transparency, explain to us where the money goes. There are actually some foundations where when you make a donation, they're going to say, here's how your money
Mm.
is going to be broken down. Not all organizations are up to that, but I do think it's something they should look to achieve.
I think those big charities absolutely need to communicate better because now
Hmm.
that it's big money now. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not, there's some small nonprofits that do their best, but
Hmm.
there's this higher tier level of charities that manage huge money. And, there's so much perception. We were talking about the town of Hampstead today and this
Hmm.
report about their manager misusing funds. There's a problem of trust in these big
Oh,
institutions.
absolutely.
And
Hmm.
so again, we're not saying they're all like that, but I
Hmm.
think I'm agreeing with you on the point that I think they really, really need to communicate better and
Oh, yeah,
change
and
that
it's a nice
perception.
opportunity.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that some big organizations have seen their donations go down
Mm.
because
Yeah.
they wouldn't be transparent, or when they did become transparent, the donors looked at it and said, "Well, this is just mismanaged.
There you go.
This just doesn't make any sense." And you use the word trust, and whenever you use that word, it opens a door for me. We do have we measure trust at Edelman. We have a
Yeah,
trust
I
barometer, and
know.
year after year, you see at the role that NGOs, the place that NGOs takes as far as trust. So we trust NGOs more than we trust governments in some instances. So they do have this responsibility to be transparent. But I do think, they're part of the societal ecosystem. We need them, right? Because
Mm.
they do fill a void. And as I wrote, there's so many urgent
Yep.
causes and
Absolutely.
important causes. So the work is important. Let's just make sure that everybody's paid well.
Thank you so much for your time, Martine. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Martine Saint-Victor, General Manager at Edelman.